brother. Oh, yeah. Woo! What? What? If you smell what the rock...
You got the wrong guy. I'm the dude, man.
Welcome to another edition of Around the Turnbuckle. My name's the Big Alboski. His name right over there is Professor Keith. And we are joined today by the monster, Kongo Kong. What's up, man?
What's up, fellas? How's it going?
Doing well. How are you?
Oh, it's going excellent. Excellent.
So,
you've been in this business a while. Yep. You've been in this business a while now, right? Am I wrong?
Yeah, no, 22 years. That's
22
that's definitely a while.
That'd be a veteran then.
Like a wise grizzled veteran.
Grizzled veteran, yes. So once upon a time, before you stepped foot in a ring, you were a fan, I assume. What got you into wrestling in the first place?
Basically when Hogan slammed Andre.
WrestleMania 3?
That was the big catalyst. What was that?
I didn't say anything. So WrestleMania 3, that was it. That got you hooked into wrestling?
Yes. Yep, my dad
Kind of one of those
that
that doesn't do it well.
And so you became and so did you start watching it regularly as a kid then?
Yeah, I would catch. We didn't have cable right away, so I would catch Saturday night's main event at first.
Yeah.
Then once we got cable, I would watch all the WWF shows. But at the time, ESPN was featuring. They started off with World Class Championship Wrestling.
Right.
Then they went to USWA. Then they went to AWA. And so I would watch those every day after school.
So you got a little bit of everything. You got a little bit of Hulk Hogan. You got a little bit of Ric Flair. You know, all those guys, Sting, Nikita Koloff, those guys, Lex Luger. Yeah, you kind of grew up. You're close to my age, so you grew up in the same era I did. As far as getting into wrestling is concerned.
Back when wrestling was good.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I came in a little bit later, so I'm always jealous of you guys that you got that 80s stuff to do. I came in about late 92. The Undertaker is what drew me in. I saw that guy. My brother had been watching before that, and I watched a little bit of Andre, and watched a little bit of the Ultimate Warrior, and I'm like, those guys are cool. But it didn't. Andre had been done at that point, and Warrior was out. So by the time I started to get interested, the two guys that start to interest me are out the door. And then I see this Undertaker guy, and I'm like, is he on a lot? Yeah, he's around pretty regularly. So I can see more of him. Yeah. Cool. More of that, please. I'll start watching it now.
Right.
So as you got older, when did that passion and that love for this business turn into something that you thought you might want to do?
Like I said, since I was a kid, I'd always wanted to be a pro wrestler, and like I would try to watch it, like when I would go visit my dad, and stay with my dad for the summers or whatever, and he'd always tell me, son, you're not gonna do that big crap, and I'm like, okay, watch me. And so, yeah, I turned 18 and bombed the school, and it's kind of history after that. And now I like to remind my dad every now and again, hey, Dad, guess what I'm doing? I'm doing that fake crap that you said I was.
So who were your trainers?
I got trained. I started off with a guy by the name of Scotty Z over in Western Michigan. Grand Rapids area to be exact. That's where I'm from. And then he got fired. So this guy named Joe Ortega, who as far as I know, was trained by Jose Lothario, the same guy that trained Shawn Michaels.
Right.
He took over the training, and basically that, I spent the next 2 years with him, and learned most of what I started out with from him.
So that first match in front of a crowd, tell us that story.
Well,
Those are always fun. Right?
I was about 2 weeks in, and I knew how to lock up and do a headlock and a drop toe hold. And they were like, well, you there for training, you're going to be on the show. And I'm like, I'm not ready. But they put me on, and it was crazy. And so I'm wrestling this guy named JT Freeze at the time. And for whatever reason, he thought it'd be a good idea for me to spear him in a match. I think it's just because, Goldberg was a big thing at the time.
Right.
And not taking into account that I had just left college football. So we got knocked the wind out of him, and he go over. So I started thinking, and I'm like, oh shoot, what do I do? He's laying there and he can't move, like he can't breathe. So, we got through it and finished the match like we were supposed to. But, training, I didn't expect it to be the way, like that.
Yeah, I mean, after 2 weeks, who would, right?
Right.
That's crazy. They would put you in a ring.
Yeah, not knowing anything, and it's kind of reckless, but that's how a lot of guys learn, really.
No, I mean, thank God nobody was hurt, obviously. And I mean, I'm outside looking in. I always admit that I'm no expert. You're the guys that are in there putting your bodies on the line. We certainly appreciate you and thank you for doing it. For our entertainment. That's why I just always look at things now a little differently than I did when I was younger, where I look at it first of like, oh my God, I hope everybody's going to be safe in there. Whereas when I was younger, I think I took it for granted, like, they know what they're doing. There's barbed wire. It's fine. They got this down. And it's like, no, it's real barbed wire. They're really going to get cut. They're really going to get hurt. This is bad.
Yeah.
So I dug up some Kongo Kong. I dug up some Kongo Kong matches that I could find. This guy's a monster. He's vicious.
Yeah, where did he come from? Like, how did you come up with him? Because I see him and he's one of those true monsters that are so great in wrestling. And then we talk to you and you're this normal, nice guy, where is that part of you that it comes from?
I believe they call that an alter ego. And actually, I started working for Juggalo Championship Wrestling, and I showed up to the first show, and they're going over the run sheet of what's happening that night. And, all right, Kongo Kong going to come on, everybody. So I'm looking around, and I'm like, who's this Kongo Kong? I know everybody here. Like, what the heck is going on? And then finally the guy looks at me and he's like, oh yeah, that's your new name. You use it wherever you want. And I'm like, crap. Like, because I was going by Osiris at the time, and that was perfectly fine with me. I knew they wanted me to paint my face and stuff, but I figured, I'd just be Osiris with a painted face, no big deal. And so once I heard the name and I started painting my face, I was like, well, who's this character got to be? And I guess, across between Umaga and Kamala,
right,
probably the best way to go. At least start. And then it's kind of turned into my own thing from there, really, before I got to do it. But yeah,
so
they're kind of responsible for
that.
So I got a question from a fellow wrestler.
Okay.
And he said his name is JT Funk. Have you heard of this guy?
Yeah, I know JT.
He said, upon first meeting Kong, I was drawn to his presence, but within the first seconds of talking to him, he was really down to earth. I'm glad to call him a friend of mine.
Yeah, I know JT.
Is he saying that out of respect or fear?
Hopefully out of respect.
Okay.
Yeah, I met JT the first time at a 1CW championship wrestling show out in Maryland, maybe.
Yeah.
It was way out, and I happened to be riding with Jake. Gosh, he's gonna kill me for messing up his name, but anyway. Yeah, I met JT out there, and we just kind of clicked and became friends after that.
Yeah, JT Funk, we have a lot of respect for. Also, JT Funk keeps sending us guests for the show, and so he's awesome.
He's really just a good giving guy. He really is.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I can't wait to see him again. Things are starting to open up here in Pennsylvania, so we're starting to have shows too. Keith and I are going to a local show on March 27th. But I mean, you look like things are happening now. Like you're getting booked solid lately, right?
Yeah, as of late, I just, like I said, completed my first 3-day weekend back, and then I have another one coming up this following weekend. So, hey, let's go, let's get it going. I'm excited about it. Just have to figure out, where the balance is, and how to still keep your distance, yet still be able to interact and perform and do your thing without getting sick. Yes.
So 20 plus years in the business, what kind of advice would you give the JT Funks in the world who've only been doing this a couple years?
Don't give up. If this is what you want to do, keep at it, man. I didn't get my first opportunity at anything big until I was 18 years in. And then that's when I got the tryout for Impact Wrestling. And then I went down there, and Abyss had helped me out a lot. And they gave me, basically my tryout match was an explosion match for their other syndicated show that goes around the world to like 80 different countries or something like that. So once I got through that, and doors started opening, once that happened, I was able to quit my regular job and do this full time, and here we are 4 years later, and I'm still doing it full time. So keep at it, don't give up. Doors will open when you least expect them to. Just have to keep going, keep your nose down, keep grinding.
One thing I've learned we've learned from talking to you guys is that it seems like you all have, no matter if you've been doing it for 2 years or you've been doing it for 20 years, you have this passion for this business. And at this point now that you've been doing it for so long, do you find yourself kind of like getting to the more of the mentor role than the performer, or do you still think you're just as good now as you were 20 years ago?
Definitely not. It's starting to slow down for me for sure, but I'm okay with that. I opened up a training school in Bluffton, Indiana. For that reason, because I feel like I have quite a bit of knowledge to pass on.
Yeah.
And, if we don't pass on our knowledge, then who will? How does this business, thrive, and how does it keep going? And I don't want to be that old, like you said, grizzled old vet who can't.
I didn't say
really
old.
Get back. Oh no, I'm old. It's cool. I accept it.
He's younger than me, Keith. He's younger than me.
I got a couple grades in my beard that tell me otherwise, so it's fine.
So do I. Some days.
Oh yeah, but you've also been wrestling for 20 years and I haven't, so I can imagine that the wear and tear is a lot more than my on my body.
Yeah, it gets rough. I'm stiff and sore as I can be right now, but if I had a match tonight, I'd go in there and I'd do, everything I could to make that match go off without a hitch, and to make a memorable moment, not only for myself but for my opponent and the fans. They're why we're there. And I think a lot of the younger guys tend to forget that, and they go out there and it's almost like they're trying to pop themselves the entire time.
Right.
I don't want to be that guy. I want to be there for them. I want to interact with them so that they remember who I am down the line.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what it's about. I wish that, this is one of the things I wish that people that aren't fans of wrestling would understand a little more, is that you guys spend so much time in a car, in a plane, in a hotel room. You're on the road way more than you're wrestling. And you are in these situations where you're driving across state lines, you're driving for days, and you've got to be able to put all that aside, get in there, have your match. You do all this for about, 20, 30 minutes of work in your match, and then you get on the road and you do it again. I mean, you guys are, some of the premier athletes, in my opinion, in the world, and I wish more people that didn't follow the business felt more like that and stopped with the attitude like your dad had, unfortunately, of like, oh, that's all that fake stuff. You don't need to do that.
Right.
I got another question. No,
okay.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say my dad. He'll throw out something about it being fake to this day, but he's also the guy that goes up to my opponent after a show that he's going to, and he's like, "Why did you lay there for that fool to jump on you?"
All right. So Funk has another question, and it's, who would you say inspires you, your current wrestling style?
Vader, Yokozuna, Bam Bam Bigelow, Undertaker.
He just named a bunch of monsters, Keith.
He did, but I see it in the matches that were brought up, and I love the monster humanity. I saw that, and I thought that was really inspiring and great that you're looking at it as not just what I can do as a performance, but how I can use this as a platform to inspire others, to bring your beliefs and all that forward. I think that's a wonderful thing that, I think a lot of guys don't always take advantage of that. That was one of the things that impressed me with our last guest, Chico Adams, that Chico Adams thinks the exact same way and was talking about everything he does with Make-A-Wish and all the opportunities that he tries to parlay whatever stardom he has into giving something back and giving something back beyond wrestling. And I think that's a tremendous thing. And it's humbling and honoring to me to be around people that are so positive, that are trying to do that are trying to use their passion as a platform to inspire and to help others.
Right. Thank you. I appreciate that.
I just love wrestling, my friend, and I've been a fan of it as long as you, if not longer. And I miss, the biggest thing I miss with this COVID is fans and live shows. And now to hear this is going on, like I was on your Facebook and I was looking at where you're going to be, and I'm like, holy crap, he's wrestling in Warsaw, he's wrestling in 3 or 4 different places in Michigan over the next couple of weeks. I'm like, this is great. And now we got stuff happening over in Pennsylvania too, so I'm excited to go back to live shows, to have fans. They're talking about having fans at WrestleMania, that kind of stuff excites me. That's the biggest thing I miss.
Yeah, it makes all the difference, man. It does. It really does. It's hard to go out there and wrestle and put on a show in front of no crowd. Like, the interaction, excuse me, I must be getting hoarse. The interaction is what we live for. So, to not have that there, it's hard to have the right cues, to know when to fire up and to when, the crowd is getting tired or when they're getting bored or whatever. If they're not there to interact with you, then you can't take those cues from it.
Exactly.
You gotta have to wing it and hope for the best.
JT Funk says, wrestling guys your size from a psychology standpoint, is it a hard story to tell?
That's a great question.
For me to wrestle guys my size?
Yeah.
No, it's easy actually. It's two big guys. It's just a lot of collisions, a lot of meat slapping. Then finally one bumps, and then finally the other bumps, and then we try to figure out something cool to do. That to me, my favorite story though is big guy versus little guy.
Right.
You got the little guy running around ping ponging everywhere. Hitting the little guy or hitting the big guy. The big guy starts rocking. Then finally, big guy knocks the little guy out of the air. And it's such a good story. You can tell it over and over again so many times.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the best matches were that, right?
Right, exactly.
Some of the best
matches ever were
the building of that. I've been in buildings, not recently, because it seems like that's one of those stories that, at least at the bigger levels, it seems like they don't tell it as much. But I mean, I've been in buildings where I've had the privilege of watching, guys like The Undertaker, Bam Bam Bigelow wrestle, and I love that stuff. The pops when they're chopping the tree, I always call it. You're chopping the guy down, and then finally, boom, that big guy falls over, and you hear that smack of flesh against the mat, and the crowd just loses their mind. And this is something I try to tell, his son and some other younger fans that are used to some of the more 500-mile-an-hour guys that do stuff now. And I'm like, but their pops don't sound the same to me. It doesn't sound the same as the simple stuff of just a little guy chopping at a big guy's legs, hitting him with a drop kick, doing everything he can think of, and then finally the big guy falls backwards. And it's safe. It's easy. Nobody gets hurt that way. And the audience loses their mind. It works every time, like you say, and nobody has to get hurt. And that's such a big, important thing to me, because I don't want to see anybody getting hurt in there, I agree with the Bret Hart theory of you're supposed to be able to go in there, do your thing, and then you go out and you have a beer afterwards and you talk about it.
Right, exactly. I think I was at IWA Mid-South last night, and I think one of the matches before myself and Vincent Nothing, when they went out and they did something, and there was a lot of thuds and bangs and something really cool that they did, one of the flashy moves, whatever. And I look over at Vince and I say, hey, I got a great idea. How about we go out there and we make sure that each other can go to work tomorrow? And he's like, I was like, exactly. There we go. We go tell a story and we go home. We don't have to do all that crazy stuff.
Yep.
All right, my man. There's something that we ask every guest, and it's some guys like it, some guys don't. But you have been in the business now for over 20 years, so I think you might like this. If you could book yourself against anybody that you have not wrestled, even if they don't wrestle anymore, alive or dead, who would that be?
Vader. Andre. Yokozuna. Those would be my matches. I don't know why I want those big guy matches. I think because I'd be the smaller guy and that would give me the opportunity to be Hulk Hogan. But yeah, those would be my matches. And it'd be such a pleasure
Yokozuna.
to be in there. Yes.
I like it.
Andre, dude.
I'd pay for a ticket to any of them, all of them.
I'll tell you what though, Kong moves as big as Kong is, he moves faster than all those guys you just mentioned though. He maybe even Yoko could move pretty good. But I mean
Yoko in his prime, they're pretty close. Vader too. I think people now don't remember what Vader was.
I remember Vader.
Yeah, that early WCW, that New Japan run, how fast Leon could go and Leon could keep up and everything.
But this guy here, I mean, I've seen him do like buckle bombs, like Kevin Owens, and fly around the ring like any, that any of those other three guys. Andre, Yoko, Vader, even in their primes, couldn't move around as much. I mean, maybe Andre from the 70s.
Andre from the 70s, probably Andre in his prime years, yeah, because Andre could drop kick. People don't probably know that as much now. I didn't know that until it started to be brought up. I actually have a book on my pile. It's a biography on Andre. I'm working my way to it. I'm getting through our friend Nikita Brezhnikov's book first. But yeah, like Andre could throw a drop kick as big as he was. Yoko could move. Even as things started to get out of hand with his weight. I mean, you go back and you look at SummerSlam 93, Luger's the one that's blown up, not Yoko. Yoko didn't get blown up, Luger did.
Right.
Vader and put Vader in there with anybody that, wasn't going to handicap him or worry about how he looked against him, brother. And Vader was
Kong, how much do you pay attention to? I know you're traveling and wrestling a lot, but how much do you pay attention to the current product, whether it be WWE, AEW, etc.?
I watch, WWE pay-per-views. I really haven't sat down and watched much of AEW. I don't know why. Why? Maybe I know why, but I'm not saying it. Just in case there's ever a chance that they call me or something. But
right.
I don't know. I'm not saying that it doesn't interest me because it's enough to watch the pay-per-views, but I don't seek after it like I used to, I guess. And I guess part of that is also because I live it, and when you're in it every day, you don't have to go seeking after it so much.
Now, WWE...
And it's probably hard to...
What?
Oh, I was just going to say, and it's probably hard because a lot of guys that we've talked to, when we talk, we ask them about, what are you following? What are you interested in now? They always say the same thing. It's hard to just sit back and watch it as a fan. When they've been doing it now, and they've been doing it as long as you have, it becomes increasingly difficult to just sit back and enjoy it as a fan. You have to look at it as a professional, and whether you want to or not, you start dissecting it and you start saying, that was right, that was wrong, I can steal this, oh, I wouldn't do that. You're not watching it the same way as you used to watch it.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I'm definitely, when it comes to that, to dissecting stuff, I tend to agree with Jim Cornette and JR more often than not.
Same here.
Things these days.
You said the magic word. You said the magic word saying Jim Cornette.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, but that goes back to what we've been talking about during this interview. You don't have to do a million things. You have to tell a good story, and telling a good story usually means focusing, drilling down on a spot, saying, okay, this is the kind of match we're going to have, like the big man, little man, the little man chops down the big man. And it's just as effective, if not more effective than, 52 tope suicidas or any other kind of jumping over the rope onto the floor in a match, because, the old standards work. And some of that stuff, when it's all about the athletics, I always, and I know I'm going to be a broken record to the fans, but I mean, Kong's never heard this before. I always go back to the Porky Pig cartoon when he's a talent agent, and you have all these acts coming in, and there's the wolf that keeps coming in and going, I have the greatest act that ever was. This is the best thing ever. And he's doing that 3 or 4 times, and Porky is going through all the other acts and saying, wait your turn, wait your turn. And then finally gets frustrated with him, and he's like, all right, fine, show me what you can do. And he's got, he mixes up all this stuff and this potion, and he drinks it, and he's got a high dive, and he's got all this stuff, and he winds up blowing himself up, and there's this big explosion, and Porky's like, wow, you were right, that is the greatest act I've ever seen. And he comes back in, he's cartoon dead with you can see through him and all that. And he's like, yeah, but there's only one little thing wrong with it. I can only do it once. And I feel like that's the problem with a lot of this other stuff. It's like once I've seen you do it, I've seen you do it. And when you come back and do it again, it's diminishing returns. And worse, it's diminishing returns on something that if you do it wrong just one time, you're going to be seriously injured or worse.
Yeah.
And that to me is just, it's frightening. It's frightening because I do care about people's health. You know, I don't see you guys as just stacks of meat that are jumping around for my entertainment. You're people.
Right. Yeah, and yet there's a lot of fans out there. And they're like, hey, yeah, we want to see you kill yourself. You know, whatever you got to do in order to keep us entertained, and it's bad. Like it doesn't do the business any good, especially because there's so many guys who prescribe to that. You know, and they want to go out there and do everything they possibly physically can to try to impress these fans. And a lot of times the fans don't even remember their name afterwards. They just kind of, oh, yeah, there's that one guy that did that one flippy thing.
Yeah. Absolutely. So you talk about possibly your what you would consider one of, or maybe you have a couple, maybe you have 2 or 3 of your best matches where, like, when you went back behind the curtain, you were like, man, that was great. We had great chemistry. You know, we left it all out there.
One would be a match I had back in, I'd say, 08, against my best friend. He goes by Hillbilly Jed in Indianapolis, and it was a 2 out of 3 falls, 3 stages of insanity match.
Nice.
And, like, I believe the first fall was a dog collar match. Second fall was a leather strap match.
Ow.
And like third fall was a fans bring the weapons match. And like we went, and he's another big guy. He's like a foot shorter than me. And we weigh about the same, but we went like 50 minutes that night doing that match. And it was such a fun time. Like neither one of us were like blown up or anything, and you know the fans left out of it super entertained, so it was great. Another time, I'll probably say the Monsters Ball would be one of them. You know, I had a lot of fun during that match. Not that I like all the toys and tables and whatnot, but it was just, you know, one of those magical moments. I just experienced, you know, my grandmother's death. I left from Lansing the night before, Lansing, Michigan, to fly down to Orlando for that match. You know, left her funeral and, you know, went straight to that match. And it was like such an uplifting, I guess, situation, you know, to go in there and be able to entertain and like feel like I put myself on the mat, you know, once that match was done. Like it's, you know, one of those real moments in wrestling. Trying to think of another one right off. I don't know. I've had a ton of great experiences. You know what I mean? Like it's hard to just narrow it down to a couple. You know, other than those matches that I said to you. But yeah, man, I've had an unbelievable career for 20 years. I've been able to live my dream. You know, and I'm not rich by any means, but I am making a living off of what I do. So, you know, it's a good situation to be in.
That's awesome. How about some well-known names that you may have wrestled?
Oh, well, let's see. Demolition, Powers of Pain, Greg the Hammer Valentine, Brutus Beefcake, Honky Tonk Man,
Nice.
Rikishi, Rhino, Sabu.
Wow.
Yeah, the list goes on and on. It's crazy.
Love those ECW ones. I love those ECW ones. Big ECW fan. Loved ECW.
Boogeyman is another one.
Boogeyman.
Typically, like Shane Douglas. I've wrestled Shane Douglas a bunch of times. Tommy Dreamer. Typically if there's a promoter looking to bring somebody in, like one of those legendary guys, they'll put him with me. Just I don't know. I guess they trust me with him or whatever. But it feels good to be in that spot.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, I mean that's job security. When
that's
they're
an
bringing
impressive resume.
Yeah, when they're bringing in the big star and they're like, Kong, he's yours.
He's yours.
Right.
All right, man. Well, what's next? What's next for Kongo Kong?
I got some shows coming up. I just picked up one at Trainwreck Wrestling. I don't know the actual name. He just called it Trainwreck. In Connersville, Indiana, and then I got Warsaw on Saturday for FWF, and then I go to Detroit on Sunday for international big time wrestling. So I'm just taking it one step at a time and just doing what I do and trying to continue to live out my dreams as long as I can. Trying to ride this thing till the wheels fall off, man. Beyond that, like I said, I have a training school in Bluffton, Indiana. So if you're looking to get into business, hit me up. You need gear if you're a wrestler. You've been making gear since 2007. I think I got some pretty nice stuff out there floating all over the place. So feel free.
Fabulous. And the best way to get a hold of you is through...
I'd say Facebook. Just find me. If you type in Kongo Kong, it's posting to pop up. It'll be the easiest to reach me. Or if you message me on any of my social medias, I'll respond back as quick as I can.
And I can attest to that, Keith, because I messaged him and he got back with me very quickly.
Which I'm sure made you super happy because
I did.
Sometimes Al sends messages to people and they wind up leaving them until like the last minute or two about whether they're going to be able to make it or not. And then we sit there gaming it out and going like, all right, well, I think he's coming, but if he doesn't come, let's talk about this instead. Let's do this. Oh, there he is. Yay, we don't have to do any of that.
Right. Yeah, no, to be fair, JT warned me that he was going to give you guys my information. I saved you up. But, yeah, like I said, I usually do. I try not to do any bad business because, you never know what bridge you're going to have to cross later. So why burn any of them?
Exactly. Couldn't agree more.
I love it, man. So, listen, we're going to get you out of here. I'm going to ask you one last question. Is there anything you want to ask? Is there anything you want to ask us on your way out?
Nah, I'm good.
Put him on the spot. All right, man. He is Kongo Kong. If you're in the Indiana and Michigan area, he's wrestling for the next couple of weekends. Find him. Go to his Facebook page. He's got all the events listed. All you gotta do is scroll down. He's got everything. He's going to be in Michigan. He's going to be in Indiana. He's going to be all in that area. So if you're in that area, check him out. Check out his stuff he's got matches on YouTube. Look him up. I easily found all of his matches because he's been wrestling a long time. So, man, I wish you nothing but the best. And, yeah, just keep running this train till it runs off the track, I guess, right?
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. That's the plan.
All right, man. Be safe, and thanks for being on Around the Turnbuckle, my friend.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. Appreciate you guys.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, Keith, we got some program notes.
Okay.
Number one is this Saturday at 6:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Around the Turnbuckle's back for you would think I had these ready.
You would think. mean, you said programming notes, you let our guest go early. I would have assumed you were prepared.
Well, he was driving. I wanted to be safe.
Yeah. I'm just saying, prepared.
This Saturday, this was important. This Saturday, we are having our first manager, notwithstanding whatever guest he is, who is also currently a manager, but Brickhouse was a referee. But this guy has ever been a manager in professional wrestling, and he manages many talents up and down the East Coast. And his name is George Burkett. So he will be with us this Saturday at 6 o'clock. Don't forget to tune in to Home Team Sports this Tuesday at 6 o'clock on this channel here and on Facebook and YouTube. Spittin' with Spitter is on Wednesday at 7 this time.
He does almost seem to be on like every day of the week anymore.
Yeah, he is. He was on today. He was on today at 2.
No, I get. It seems like I just wake up and there's a notification like Spittin' with Spitter or
anyway, his guest
show or whatever.
His guest on Wednesday, I'm sorry, it's Wednesday at 8 o'clock, is Stress the White Boy, who actually has won a Grammy. So he's got a Grammy award-winning artist on Wednesday at 8 o'clock, Spittin' with Spitter. And next Tuesday, or I'm sorry, I'm wrong. Next Sunday, the 14th, Keith, we have on Around the Turnbuckle, we have Joshua Cutshaw. So, again, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't forget to check out all of our shows. Spittin' with Spitter. We have random drops of Shooting the Shit with Alan Spit. TJ's also got the TJ and Nikki Deal show every other Sunday. Keith and I are on every Saturday and Sunday at 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And on Tuesdays at 6 o'clock, it's Home Team Sports. This week, we're going to be talking a little MMA. We're going to be talking about the NBA All-Star Game, which is tonight. So we're going to get out of here. Do you have anything that you want to talk about?
I don't actually. You know what? I do want to go over a couple of noteworthy things. This week, Jim Crockett Jr. passed away.
He did,
and that is seismic death within the wrestling business. If you don't know who Jim Crockett Jr. was, how are you a wrestling fan?
No, you can't say that because anybody 30 or younger might not know who he is.
I like to think that people can read and give a crap about the history of the business. And yes, I know people will disappoint me over and over again doing that. But
explain to those who don't know who he was, because I do know.
Jim Crockett ran the forerunner to WCW. That was Jim Crockett Promotions. It was founded by his father. 55 years. The Crockett family promoted wrestling in North Carolina. He is the only, and I mean, you all say the Monday Night War and Eric Bischoff, but Jim Crockett ran head-to-head with Vince McMahon in the 80s. You have the Survivor Series because Vince was programming against, I think, a Starcade card. Yeah, it was a Starcade. The Rumble because it was programming against something Crockett did. You got Clash with Champions because Crockett was programming against WrestleMania. I mean, these guys went head to head, and Crockett nearly beat him. Crockett had Flair. Crockett had Dusty. The Horsemen. You have the Horsemen because of Jim Crockett Promotions. Crockett was a guy that, just ran his family business, and unfortunately, it was a case of the business was hot and kind of similar to ECW in a way where they got too big to be small, but they were too small to be big. At the end of the day, they were a mom and pop shop. And unfortunately, they got into trouble with their accounting and whatnot. And, Jim comes up one day and looks at the accountant and they go, "Well, we're done." "Well, what do you mean we're done? We just bought another plane." They had planes. He bought any, the story is that Vince ran every territory out of business. That's sort of true, but there were also, and this speaks to Jim Crockett's heart over his business sense, where there were a lot of instances where Crockett would go to promoters that were going under, like Kansas City was going under, some of the Texas promotions going under, and Jim bought the promotion from them, even when probably the smart business decision would have been to just let them go under, sign who they could, all that stuff. But Jim, out of the goodness of his heart, bought them and gave them a stipend to retire on. Also, interesting historical fact that I don't know if a lot of people may know. You may be looking at that last name and going, wait a minute, Crockett? Like Davy Crockett? Yes, they're actually descendants of Davy Crockett. So we definitely want to offer condolences to his siblings who I know are still alive. We want to offer our condolences to everybody who worked for him. A lot of them are still in the business. We have Tony Schiavone because of him. One of the voices of my childhood and is still working in AEW now.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have Tony Schiavone if Jim Crockett hadn't hired him. So I just really, everybody that came into contact with him, I just want to say, our hearts are with you. We know this is a tough week. He had just entered hospice care, and the only thing I think we can take solace in is that he was in very bad health and he was in a lot of pain, and thankfully it seems like his pain was over quickly. So, I mean, at least we can take some solace in that, but still tough time, tough week.
To me, when I was a kid, I watched WWF, and I didn't know at the time that Vince McMahon was in charge. I thought Vince McMahon was a commentator or like a reporter or an announcer. Same thing goes for WCW and Jim Crockett. A lot of times you saw Jim Crockett on TV interviewing guys, and I didn't know how much power he had or that he was, what his role was. I always thought he was just like a reporter like McMahon.
So, I think you're thinking of his brother David.
No. Jim was on TV like a lot.
I remember them having Jim on there in his actual role as president of the NWA, because
they did that eventually. But I mean,
David was doing.
Eventually they did that. Eventually they had him on, but a lot of times he'd come on in that reporter role, and then when they said he was president of the NWA, then they said, okay. So then when he came on, it was kind of like, to me, like when I was watching early WWF days with like President Jack Tunney. So like I was like watching, like, that's what I thought. I thought that he was like President Jack Tunney, and President Jack Tunney was actually running, WWF. Yeah. So, I mean, now looking back at what Jim Crockett meant to the business, amazing, because he had a lot to do with a lot of what wrestling fans take for granted, especially people watching this back when I did or before that. If you talk to people like the, wrestling historians out there, they'll have nothing but good stuff to say about Jim Crockett.
Yeah, we're still feeling the ripples from that 80s war from McMahon and Crockett. Things that Crockett did, that McMahon did in response to Crockett. We're still feeling it today. That was a just monumental moment in the business, and there are so many legendary names. Jim Cornette was talking about it this week, how happy he was to work for Jim Crockett, and said if Jim Crockett had been able to hang on, he would have never left North Carolina. He would have never left Crockett Promotions. That was the happiest he ever was in wrestling.
How old was Jim when he passed away? Do you know?
I believe Jim was in his 70s.
Okay.
I want to say. And he had started to do conventions a little bit again. For the longest time, he wouldn't, because he didn't really want to relitigate, the wrestling aspects of it. Because if you ask Jim, people have blamed the death of Crockett Promotions on a lot of things. They've said, oh, it was Dusty's fault, it was Dusty's booking, or it was the accounting and all that. And anytime Jimmy was asked about it, Jimmy would man up and he would say, nope, It was my fault. I was in charge. I hired those people. Anything you can say, at the end of the day, it's on my doorstep. I was in charge. I ran it. We failed on my watch.
76.
Yeah.
76. So yeah, Jim Crockett, 76. Again, some people might say that's not bad, 76, but far too young in my book. All right, we're gonna get out of here, Keith. We're gonna see everybody on Saturday, like I said, for another edition of Around the Turnbuckle at our regular time, 6 p.m. So tune in, like, share, subscribe. We loved having Kongo Kong in, brother. If you're watching the replay on this, thank you so much for coming on. It was an honor to talk to you. We've been in this business a while. The list of names that he wrestled, Keith, was phenomenal. He just gave you a small list, which was cool. But if anybody's interested in Kongo Kong matches, go on YouTube. They are easily found. He's been in the business quite some time, wrestled for many different organizations. And you can visit his Facebook page. Just type it in. You'll find him. And he's got all the organizations that he wrestled for. Plus, he's got links to most of his matches, most of his videos. You can find all that stuff on his Facebook page. And if you want to see him wrestle live and you're in the Michigan area, he's going to be wrestling for the next 2 or 3 weekends solid. So it's great to see that guys are getting booked again. I'm excited, and I'm excited for you and I, Keith, for Triple WA in Quakertown. That's going to be cool.
Yeah, please, God, let it go through this time.
JT Cage, we're coming for your ass.
Yeah, because I got a couple of little kids that want to go to our first wrestling show, and they are not going to be happy if I tell them again that it's canceled. So,
and if Hat Guy gets in my face, I'm going to snatch his hat off of him and throw it out the window.
It's going to be so amazing when you talk all this shit and then you forget the fact that Malcolm King now works with them too. Maybe you've got a chance against JT. Maybe you've got a chance against Hat. You probably got a good chance against Hat. But Malcolm King will end you.
Malcolm King, no. I think I sweat Slayer a little bit too.
Yeah, but I feel like Slayer, we could maybe throw something shiny and confuse them. Malcolm King, that's not going to work.
If you are in the Pennsylvania area with me and Keith, Pennsylvania, Jersey area, and you want to see some live wrestling, March 27th, Triple WA, Quakertown. Tickets are going fast, so get a hold of them. Go on their Facebook page. You can find links and phone numbers to call and try to get tickets. They're going to go fast because it's limited capacity still with the COVID. So get them while they're hot. Get them while you still can. For Triple WA at Quakertown at Q-Mart. Keith and I will be there. And
come say hello.
Yeah, man. Come say hello. Absolutely. And we're going to get out of here. I am the Big Alboski. He is Professor Keith. And we'll see you next time on Around the Turnbuckle.
Ladies and gentlemen, what you gonna do, brother? Oh, yeah! Woo! What?